Welcome, Jakub Możaryn, who is already here. He is a social activist and a moderator of this group called Visible Hand from Poland, which has some 100 and more than 111,000 members on Facebook and some 200 local groups all over the country. So welcome, Jakub. How are you doing?
Welcome. Thank you for introduction. I'm fine.
Great to hear.
Yeah, so, just waiting to talk more about the initiative. Yeah.
Great. So I can see your presentation. If you want to start, please go ahead.
Okay. So today I would like to briefly talk about the mutual aid network that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic situation all over the world. However, this network, mutual aid network, this is the network that emerged in Poland in just the last few weeks. So the title of the presentation is Visible Hand Helps Across Poland. And I would like briefly tell about the impulse that was the quite important impulse for creating this group, because this impulse was what you see here. The impulse was 11th of March, when suddenly many people, also the creator of Visible Hand, Philip, just realized that, streets are getting empty. People are feeling the insecurity and loneliness and fear, and there is a lack of procedures. So, it created a very problematic situation for many people, and it was the impulse. So it was the impulse to create something like the group for friends, and I also in this since the beginning as. In this group in the beginning, so it was mostly in the beginning for the friends, and it started on 11th of March. So it started when all the schools, universities started to be closed all over Poland, and many people were it was the beginning of the lockdown, and many people were advised to stay at home and to keep social distancing. So that was the impulse. So as I said, it started on March 11th, and it started with very simple description that if you find yourself stuck at home due to the risk of becoming infected or infecting others with the COVID-19, it is very possible that you struggle with groceries, childcare, repairs, or anything else. Or maybe you just need to talk to another person, just because you are bored, anxious, or feeling a little bit depressed. This group offers a space for people to both seek and offer help. And it was mostly for the group of friends in the beginning from quite small area of Warsaw, very close friends. However, it started very quickly to grow, and many people started to invite their friends from other cities. So as you here you can see that it started to this very simple description started to be a little bit more complicated, to give something like a rule how to post and what to post, because as it was said in the beginning of this group, we are talking about the pro bono help, like non-monetary thing, and voluntary mutual aid. So the idea was like that, and already people on the group started to add hashtags about that they can help, or they offer help, or they need help, and with what they can help, what is the city and what is the district, because it started to be more and more regional in different parts of Poland. And what is very interesting, that it started to maybe I will come back to this later, but it started to grow very quickly. It started to grow almost in few days. From 20 people, there was like 5,000 people in 2 days. And what is very interesting, in 10 days, there was more than 100,000 people on the group. And what more, and what is very interesting in this story is that people very quickly were advised on the main group to create their own, how to say, visible hands. So the visible hands in different parts of Poland, in different cities, in different regions, but also the visible hands that take care of different things. Like, for example, they take of people who are who had the problems with the work, like, you know, that they got sacked, or maybe they will be get sacked, you know, the wages getting to be lower, and so on and so on. So there are different groups that are now taking care of different areas, I can say, and or covering different areas of need. And what was the inspiration for this group? And that's also very interesting. This is an interesting story because, you know, when we dig deeper in the story of Poland, there was something like an action which was called Invisible Hand, and it was in 50s and 60s, and it was a mutual aid action targeted to youth who didn't have much to do after World War II. So like it was like 15 years after that. So people then realized that, you know, like, to get them interested in something, to do something worthwhile, it's good to start involving them into the mutual aid groups. But it was called Invisible Hand. It was done anonymously, and now the idea was more like, okay, to be visible, to, like, you know, in this moment we can't be an anonymous person. We need to, like, create a very strong bonds with our neighbors. So as you can see, you know, groups started to grow and grow, and started to have chapters or groups all over the Poland. And here is just information about the total members now. So now it's over 100,000. And let's go to the groups. So now there is an over 200 groups, local groups, mostly covering the area of Poland, and roughly counting the number of people involved in the groups that they get information about the help needed in the area is few hundred thousand people. Sorry, it's not few hundred, few 100,000 people involved in local activities. And what's more, that also there is 1,000 of groups in Europe, mostly for the Polish citizens who are in different countries. So there are, like, the immigrant groups that some people would like to go back home and they're looking for information, or they organize the mutual aid in the area. So we have, like, Germany or France or a lot of groups in UK. And what's also from the inside we can see, and this is something that maybe will be interesting for some sociologists later, that 76% of people in the main group, among these 110,000 people, 76.8% are women. And what's more interesting is that they are mostly between 25 and 45 years old. So these are people, women, who are, you know, in the most creative, in the most working, I can say, age, and they find time to help others. So it's really impressive, and it's something that, you know, when I saw it, for me it was like, wow, you know, somebody is doing here a very good work.
Totally.
And, you know, absolutely, for me it was amazing thing, and, you know, it should be really put somewhere on the wall, and to say, you know, we should keep it in mind later, and you will see also it on the pictures I will show later. So
that's like the best pro-feminist, you know, comment ever.
Yeah. And it was like that since the beginning, I can say. So really, really interesting. And what's really interesting here is also that this is the movement of spontaneity. So this is not an organization, this is not the foundation, this is not a brand or anything. This is just the name and the idea to help each other. And as we talk in the main group about it, we would like to keep it like that as long as possible. So not to make it another brand or something, not to make an association, just let people create their own groups and like learn from each other. I later show a lot of examples, but they are like learn from each other and like be creative in these groups and how we can help and how we can support and what we can do with that. So already besides these 200 groups, there are some interesting examples that I give here. So we have the visible hands for different cities or different regions. However, we also have visible hands targeted for groups of people. For example, here we have a visible hand for Ukrainian workers in Poland. So it's called Widzialna Ruka, and this is the Ukrainian section. And it's run by NGOs who are helping Ukrainians in this at the moment. Another one, which is also very interesting, it's called Small Visible Hand, and it's targeted for kids to show that seniors and kids and youth, like all these groups, different age groups, are valuable members of local communities, and they can also help. So I will later show, and I think this is some examples will be in a minute. But what we can see in the groups of visible hand, we can see that that they really there is a mixture of people. Like it's not like only very special group, but some more groups and more people are quite visible there. So what's really interesting also, and now I would like to talk about the actions, because each group I can say blossom. So each group creates their own fingers, I can say, or not exactly visible hands, but the subgroups on the social media or outside social media, that they are doing very special things. So for example, there is a visible hand in a region called Free City, Trójmiasto, and they have their own special group, which is called Trójmiasto Szyje Maski or something like that. And there are different groups also in other regions that only do masks and protective gear, protective shields for public sector workers who go to work every day, and they are really threatened with the COVID-19 situation. So they supported somehow with that. And this is very interesting because as crisis evolved and started threatening to severely damage public health institutions, Visible Network immediately answered with support. Visible Hand Network. So immediately this group started to emerge. They started to gather people around. They started to create the donation actions to buy material, to sew together, to spread the material among people in the houses, and then gather it and, like, for example, go to hospital. So it's really interesting because what I can say, it's really I think what I also heard from different groups and different what I heard today, and this is something what I see, for example, that it's something like, we have a state, and sometimes we suppose that maybe state should take care of the public sector problems, but it doesn't. So we have to do it because the public sector is for us. So we support the public sector somehow. Yeah. So that's really interesting. This is something that, like emerged, and I will tell you later why I think creating these mutual aid groups, it's something quite interesting on the organizational way, like as a structure. Another interesting idea. Okay, this is more of that, because up to now they created like hundreds of thousands of self-made masks for the or shields. There is a vast number for many public institutions like hospitals, retirement houses, and stuff like that. So and places like that. So as you can see, also the people here are different, because for example, here we have women from Chechnya who came to Poland because of the political situation in Chechnya, and they are sewing masks. Here are the young people who are from NGOs who are sewing masks. So like the groups are different, and also you can see that people who we don't usually see, suddenly, like these women from Chechnya, suddenly they show up, that they can do something for the society, for us together, and we are doing this together, and they are also involved in the group. So for me, it's really very inspirational. And the other thing is this action Small Visible Hand. This is the action for kids. And the idea is that kids start from making a base. So these are the small bases for kids. And then starting from the base, they go to neighbors. So they create something like, because they can't go out, obviously, because, not nowadays they only can go out with parents, during the lockdown.
Yeah.
So the thing is that they create something like a post office between parents and neighbors, between them and neighbors through parents. So they just create the small postcards, and they just give these postcards, or they bake something for neighbors. And this is something like they create something like a support, emotional support for people that they take care of, and they see each other, that they can see each other, and they can take care of themselves. And also that put smiling faces outside the window, and do a lot of like games and challenges. Like every week there is a challenge for them. And next thing is also like helping the most vulnerable groups. So already such networks of the mutual aid were existing in Poland. For example, in Poland we have something what's called Food Not Bombs. It's international network. However, it started to be very visible on the streets, especially now when they figured out how to help homeless people. And they do it with the city council. So it's really interesting. Like in some cities, they are organized pretty well, even though usually they are from the anarchist network. However, somehow during this time they started to be visible and pointed as an example of the work. So many times they also put the information on the visible hand, what they are doing and what is the action. And also we have something what it's called a network of volunteer fire departments. And this is the very specific thing for Poland. I don't know if such networks exist somewhere else. However, in Poland, this is a huge network of the volunteer fire departments, and they somehow organize with the scouts and with the visible hand groups together to, for example, provide material for hospitals or retirement houses. Okay, so this is something more about the Food Not Bombed network, and also they create the packages for people in need, not only the food, but also they provide how it's called, masks and
like essential kit.
Yeah, essential kit, something like that. Like that, exactly. So the sanitary essential kit during the COVID-19. So this is a lot of work, and just recently we started to do some podcasts, and We just recently talked with them, and later I will write down where you can find it, so
Absolutely.
you can hear the stories from Łódź or from special bus for the homeless people that's in Warsaw.
Yeah.
And another thing is here we can see also, like, this is the fire volunteer fire department truck and bringing stuff to the hospital. So, and what's also interesting here, that this is in the very small city. So on the seashore near the Baltic Sea. So it's really interesting, to see how people organize in these small regions, not like Warsaw, which is the big city, but how they organize and how they create the mutual aid groups in many small cities around Poland. And I think, this is something that emerged, and it started to have a huge coverage also in some media and something. So as we can see, the ways of helping are different. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about the struggles that we have on the group.
That's very important, especially cyberbullying and all that.
Yeah. So the thing is that what we, sorry, I just need to do one thing, and sorry.
It's all right.
Okay. Right. So the thing is that what are the struggles? And I will start from the beginning and tell, like, when you have like friends, 20, 50, 100 friends, and all of them, there is no place for this kind of problems that I'm talking about here. But when you have 100,000 people from all over Poland, and we are talking about the voluntary mutual aid, and people start to behave like they usually behave on the social media. And we have, for example, the very important rule, help without disturbing, which means don't go to the commentary about the politics, about the religion, about the money. We are talking here about the help. So the rest is not as important. And if you want to talk about it, go to some other group or talk with your friends about it. But this is the group for providing help. So there is no place for this. And so keeping this rule is quite hard. And, like, many times we just struggle with comments, and, we have to, like, sometimes we have to block commenting some posts because, it creates a lot of emotions, and, it starts to be very, very political, that we would like to avoid.
And I mean, this is a huge group. It's like over 100,000 people, so it's just uncontrollable, I guess.
Yeah, so the thing is that now there is like 14 of us. Philip asked for help just in the beginning for friends, and we just said, okay, let's do it. This is a part. This is something that is going here that we are all waiting for. The adventure, I can say. Like helping each other is an adventurous thing. So that's the first rule. And the other one is fraud, of course, and it happens in huge groups. And this is what is interesting, that people many times point out that this is the fraud, and they give us the hints why, or they talk about the people who are doing the fraud. So that's the other struggle. The next one is fake news, and we already had opportunity to take part in the workshop organized by Facebook, because they just realized that this group is getting bigger and bigger. So they started to provide us, for example, workshops, and one of these workshops was about the fake news, and it was very interesting. It was done by the professionals who are just observing the fake news in the media. and they told a lot of about the techniques, how you can spot the fake news, and how you can recognize the fake news among other newses. And another thing is, of course, spam and cyberbullying. Cyberbullying happens also in this group. So really, many times also people really take care of themselves, so they start also reporting the cyberbullying to us. So we find a lot of support in the members of the group. So that's the thing. And finally, this is the end of my presentation. But I would like to just say some few words what we observe, and why, for example, why the visible hand is so interesting. Why that the current situation with the COVID-19 has shown the new pattern of creating mutual aid groups. Like, we are using the social media, we can connect very quickly, we can connect globally. The idea goes globally, spreads very fast. It's like many people say you are faster than epidemic, but it's not true exactly. However, 10,000 10 times or even more help than are sick now in hospitals. But I don't want to compare it. But however, this is interesting. How it is working.
It's totally like, we have a Spanish journalist today, John, who said something like the illness of solidarity is contagious.
Yeah.
So totally.
Yeah, but yeah. Let's observe how it will be, in some time. How but I think it will be something very something that people will remember for all their lives. I think this kind of the solidarity, and I'm not talking about this group, but I'm talking about the different groups that started to emerge. And so here I will talk more about, even not about this group, but other groups also, and other networks in other countries. So the mutual aid network strengthens the society facing crisis. So it's easier to recover after. And such things happen, in the Poland during the Soviet era. People really helped themselves. During the World War II, in facing the crisis like that, people start to create this kind of the solidarity network. And what is interesting, that it really strengthens the society. It reinforces. So the other thing is the solidarity is necessary for survival of the most vulnerable people, especially now. So it's good to keep this kind of the social network, like being distancing but being together. So it's interesting. But it also was shown like creating the packages for the elderly people. It's something blowing my mind, really, when I see like how many young people prepare packages for people in the retirement houses, for example, like in smaller cities, for example, like Piotrków Trybunalski or Słupsk. So that's really interesting. And what I want to point here is also importance of emotional and psychological support. So people really understand the importance of this, and they can name it. And I hope that when the situations we overcome the situation, and the COVID-19 hopefully pass, we will remember about keeping this emotional and psychological support as a part of the support at all. It's not only money, it's not only food, it's not only transport or anything, but it's also the speaking with other people. And emotional and psychological support is very important part of it. And other thing is what we observe, and what's also many people point not only in the hard times and not only in mutual aid groups, but group problem solving is very efficient. So many people solving the same problem can get almost the same result as an expert solving the problem. Because they have the mutual knowledge that they put together. So it needs to be properly facilitated to get this knowledge and to solve something in a creative way. And there's thousands of different ways of helping that we observe in the posts on Visible Hand Group. They show it that you can be very you can do it immediately when you have an individual and or collective problem, and it is very efficient and very creative, and it can be very creative. So it's really interesting to see that. And what else I wanted to say, when somebody is thinking about, okay, let's maybe start the group, and the media coverage is very important also. It helped really to get to many people very quickly. So, and in different media, I'm not talking about the one specific media, I don't know, from the left political side or the right political side, but it was really in different medias.
Absolutely. Well, it's a sort of group problem solving, when you have civil society and when you have media. So that's how we can, solve a problem together. Well, that's a great presentation. I mean, I'm really happy that you've also brought some analysis of what you guys are doing and what you've learned from the activities of the group. And it seems like you've done, a lot of things. You've got this, local groups, you have a group for legal assistance, for job opportunities, culture. You mentioned some podcasts.
The thing is, I don't want to say that I'm doing this.
The group
working.
Yeah.
We are doing. Yeah, I want to say collectively we do this.
Totally.
Somehow.
May I just quickly ask you really briefly, how do you see, so when the pandemic is over, like these guys met each other, right? These local groups and they helped and so on. Do you think that it's gonna continue, or they will just cut their connections? Like, how is it? What's the future of it?
I'm an optimist and pessimist. So the thing is that I have enough optimism to say that it will go through, and there will be groups existing, maybe under different names, or maybe some people create their own associations or something like that. But these bonds that they created now, they will stay. But I think that many people will start to go back to the normal life, I can say, and it won't be very as now when the people really are in need. So the needs will be different, and also this group was especially for this moment and for this. However, the pattern can be copied for different problems. So I think when people learn a pattern, they can copy the pattern, and it's not like a patented pattern. So we just do it. So and learn from this, and of course adjust it to the situation. And in my opinion, this is something that when we start talking about it and we start to get these patterns nowadays, it will help us very quickly to create very efficient mutual aid groups.
Absolutely. And what I really admired is what you said about strengthening the society, and that it's gonna help us to recover. And I really want to conclude our conversation with this. And thank you very much, Jakub, for sharing your experience and joining us today. Well, keep up the good work and stay safe and healthy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. You too. Take care.
Thank you, absolutely.